The missile they used is nuclear-capable, and this is important. It is a nuclear-capable system that used a conventional warhead but could be used for nuclear purposes. Putin basically said that this missile can now cover all of Europe and that in the future, he will mirror every action by Ukraine in the West. Any escalation will be immediately responded to. So, anybody who thought that Russia was bluffing, that you could call Russia's bluff, has now been put on notice that Russia is not bluffing. This is a major escalation. This is bringing in a new category of weapons. It is a qualitative advance, and it has put us dangerously down the path towards nuclear conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, let's delve into the latest developments in the conflict between Russia, Ukraine, and the West. A storm is brewing, and this time the sky itself seems to roar with power beyond imagination. Russia's newest hypersonic missile, Oresnik, has entered the stage, leaving its adversaries scrambling in fear. Now, November 19th and 21st, what we are about to reveal is a timeline of events that unfolded between November 19th and 21st, 2024. A story of precision strikes, failed Western aggression, and Russia's iron response. Even Inspector Scott Ritter, a former intelligence officer, has repeatedly highlighted NATO's lack of preparedness to face advancements like these. This moment is a harsh wake-up call for the West. And now, let's explore how the Oresnik became the unchallenged king of the battlefield, turning NATO's so-called high-tech systems into dust. First, let's talk about the star of this show, the Oresnik, a direct evolution of the legendary RS-10 Pioneer system. This missile is not just another weapon in Russia's arsenal, it's a statement. It boasts a range of up to 5,000 kilometers, giving it the ability to strike deep into enemy territory with unparalleled precision. Its conventional warhead yields a jaw-dropping 150 kilotons, more than enough to obliterate critical infrastructure even without nuclear capabilities. But what makes the Oresnik truly terrifying is its speed. Traveling at Mach 10 or 10 times the speed of sound, this missile crosses vast distances in mere minutes. To put it into perspective, that's 2 to 3 kilometers every single second. In the time it takes for someone to blink, the missile has already covered the length of a football field. This speed doesn't just make it fast, it makes it practically unstoppable. Traditional air defense systems, including NATO's best, simply can't keep up. By the time radar detects it, it's already too late. And let's not forget its accuracy. The Oresnik can hit within 50 meters of its target. But let's be honest, when you're dealing with a warhead of this magnitude, 50 meters might as well be a bullseye. Precision becomes almost irrelevant when the sheer destructive force ensures that everything in the vicinity is reduced to rubble. At this level, it's not about precision, it's about inevitability. The Oresnik doesn't just hit its target, it erases it. Now you might be wondering, what about missile interception systems? Surely NATO has something up its sleeve. The answer is a resounding no. The sheer speed of the Oresnik renders most interception systems useless. Anti-missile defenses rely on detection, tracking, and firing within seconds. But the Oresnik operates on a different timeline altogether. By the time these systems are even activated, the missile is already at its destination. The concept of stopping it isn't just difficult, it's science fiction. More importantly, the Oresnik represents a leap in modern warfare. This is not just another missile, it's a game changer, a weapon that changes the rules, breaks the norms, and leaves adversaries scrambling to catch up. It's a testament to Russian engineering, showcasing what's possible when you combine innovation with military necessity. Even Western analysts have reluctantly admitted the missile's capabilities. In fact, during a recent analysis, it was described as a missile ahead of its time, designed for a conflict the West is unprepared for. Quite the compliment, don't you think? When even your enemies acknowledge your superiority, you know you've created something extraordinary. The Oresnik isn't just a tool of destruction, it's a symbol, a stark reminder to NATO and its allies that Russia is not to be underestimated. It tells the world, we're not just participants in this conflict, we are the leaders in modern warfare. So what does this all mean for NATO and Ukraine? Let's analyze the events of November 19th to 21st, where the West's overconfidence met its demise. On November 19th, Ukraine, emboldened by its Western masters, decided to test Russia's resolve with US-made ATACMS missiles and British Storm Shadow systems at their disposal. They launched an assault deep into Russian territory. Their targets were clear critical infrastructure, military installations, and command centers. The goal? To cripple Russia's ability to respond. But here's the thing, what they achieved couldn't be further from their objectives. Russia's air defense systems, among the most advanced in the world, neutralized the attacks with ease. The ATACMS missiles, touted as state-of-the-art by the US, were intercepted mid-air, falling harmlessly into open fields. The British Storm Shadow missiles? Same story. They didn't even get close to causing significant damage. It was a humiliating display of failure for Ukraine and its Western backers, a stark reminder that flashy technology means nothing when faced with superior strategy and preparation. And yet, they didn't stop there. On November 21st, in what can only be described as a desperate follow-up, Ukraine launched another assault. This time, they targeted Bryansk and Kursk, two regions of strategic importance to Russia. The result? A few minor damages, a lot of wasted missiles, and zero strategic gains. It was as if Ukraine and NATO were throwing darts at a wall hoping something would stick. But hope doesn't win wars, and it certainly doesn't stop Russian retaliation. Let's talk about these so-called mighty missile systems. The ATACMS, for example, is often praised in Western media as a game-changer. But what did we see on November 19th? A system that failed to penetrate even the outer layers of Russia's air defenses. Then there's the Storm Shadow, a missile often described as unbeatable. Well, if being intercepted mid-flight is unbeatable, then perhaps NATO needs to redefine the term. And let's not forget the Western narrative surrounding these attacks. Media outlets scrambled to paint them as successes, using phrases like significant pressure on Russia or turning point in the conflict. But the reality on the ground was far less impressive. Footage showed missiles falling harmlessly into open fields, explosions in deserted areas, and air defense systems working like clockwork. It was a masterclass in misinformation, an attempt to save face in the wake of undeniable failure. But here's the kicker. Russia wasn't just prepared for these attacks, they were waiting for them. Every missile intercepted, every target protected was a deliberate message to Ukraine and NATO. It said, "We see you, we know your moves, and we are ready." And what about the West's reaction? Did they double down? Did they admit defeat? Neither. Instead, they resorted to their usual playbook denial and deflection. NATO officials claimed the attacks were a success, pointing to minor damages as evidence. But even they couldn't hide the truth. Behind closed doors, reports emerged of frustration, confusion, and panic. How could their best weapons fail so spectacularly? The answer is simple. They underestimated Russia, and now they're paying the price. So what was Russia's response to these reckless attacks? That's the real story here. Let's look at what happened when the Oresnik struck back. November 21st marked a turning point, not just in this conflict but in modern warfare as a whole. A single Oresnik missile was launched at Dnipro, targeting one of Ukraine's largest and most critical industrial complexes. This was no ordinary sight. It was the symbol of Soviet-era engineering might, a location that for decades had served as the backbone of Ukraine's military production capabilities. It housed facilities for advanced rocketry, weapons manufacturing, and the maintenance of armored vehicles. But in just a matter of minutes, this icon of industrial and military power was reduced to little more than a smoking crater. The Oresnik missile reached its target with unparalleled precision. At hypersonic speeds, it left no room for error, no chance for interception. Upon impact, the missile obliterated 3 major facilities, each crucial to Ukraine's war effort. Ambulances rushed to the scene, but there was little they could do. What can you rescue from rubble that has been pulverized to dust? Entire production lines, including those manufacturing cutting-edge rocket systems, were annihilated in an instant. What had once been a bustling hub of activity was now silent, a grim testament to the power of Russian engineering. This strike was not just about physical destruction, it was a calculated move designed to send a message. As JN, a trusted analyst following this conflict, aptly pointed out, this was a strike that transcended tactical precision. It was about psychological dominance. The West and Ukraine didn't just lose a factory, they lost face. Think about the implications. For months, Western media had painted a picture of Ukraine's resilience, of its ability to stand toe-to-toe with Russia. And yet, with one missile, that narrative crumbled as surely as the walls of Dnipro's industrial complex. It's important to consider the ripple effects of this strike. By targeting such a critical facility, Russia didn't just weaken Ukraine's immediate war effort, it crippled its ability to sustain long-term military production. This wasn't a single blow, it was a strategic maneuver to erode Ukraine's capacity to fight back over time. And let's not forget the timing, coming just days after Ukraine's failed missile attacks on Russian territory. This was a master stroke of retaliation. It showed that while Ukraine and its Western backers rely on sporadic and often misguided aggression, Russia responds with precision, power, and purpose. Now let's address the response, or lack thereof. NATO and Ukraine predictably downplayed the significance of this strike. Western media scrambled to find ways to frame it as a minor setback, ignoring the undeniable reality on the ground. But satellite images told a different story. 3 facilities wiped off the map, critical infrastructure destroyed, and no viable path to recovery in sight. The contrast couldn't be starker. While Russia operates with calculated precision, the West clings to narratives that no longer align with the facts. The Oresnik missile's role in this event cannot be overstated. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a demonstration of superiority, a clear signal to Ukraine and its allies that their efforts are futile in the face of such advanced capabilities. And what's more, it highlighted the growing disparity between Russia's military innovation and the stagnant strategies of the West. Yet, despite this overwhelming success, the West continues to pretend it can counter Russia's advancements. Let's examine their so-called strategic responses and see how they measure up. With the Oresnik, Russia has done more than develop a new missile. It has redefined the very nature of modern warfare. This is not just an advancement, it is a revolution. The Oresnik's unmatched speed, precision, and reliability render traditional defenses obsolete. Anti-missile systems, radar networks, even hardened bunkers, none of them stand a chance against this weapon. More importantly, the Oresnik sends a clear and unambiguous message to Russia's adversaries. No bunker, no command center, no Western weapon is safe. Let's take a moment to reflect on what this means for NATO. For years, the alliance has prided itself on its technological edge. It has poured billions into missile defense systems, precision-guided munitions, and advanced radar technologies. But the Oresnik has rendered all of that irrelevant. At speeds of Mach 10, this missile moves faster than any system NATO currently possesses can detect, track, or intercept. By the time an alarm is sounded, it's already too late. But the Oresnik is more than just a technical achievement. It represents a broader shift in military strategy, a move away from brute force and mass deployment toward precision strikes and psychological dominance. This is the future of warfare, and Russia is leading the charge. While NATO clings to outdated doctrines, Russia is setting the pace, leaving its adversaries scrambling to catch up. Now let's not forget NATO's biggest blunder, the unilateral withdrawal from the INF Treaty in 2019. This treaty, which had been in place for decades, was designed to limit the proliferation of intermediate-range missiles. By abandoning it, NATO essentially gave Russia the green light to develop weapons like the Oresnik. It's a textbook case of arrogance leading to strategic failure. The West assumed it could maintain its dominance through sheer force, but instead, it paved the way for its own obsolescence. As Putin himself said, "We act in response to aggression, not provocation." This is a fitting reminder for those who continue to underestimate Russia. The development of the Oresnik wasn't an act of aggression, it was a response to years of Western encroachment, broken treaties, and relentless hostility. And now, the West is reaping what it has sown. The implications of this are far-reaching. For one, it forces NATO to reevaluate its entire approach to missile defense. No longer can it rely on systems like THAAD or Aegis to protect its assets. These systems, while effective against slower, less advanced threats, are utterly useless against a missile like the Oresnik. The alliance must now confront the reality that it is no longer the leader in military innovation. That title belongs to Russia. More importantly, the Oresnik raises questions about NATO's ability to protect its members. If a single missile can bypass their defenses and strike with impunity, what does that mean for countries like Poland or the Baltic states? What does it mean for the alliance as a whole? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are questions that must be asked. Ultimately, the Oresnik is a wake-up call, a reminder that the rules of warfare are changing, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. So, where does this leave Ukraine and its allies? Let's conclude with the harsh reality they face. Ukraine, NATO, and their so-called allies now find themselves at a crossroads. They can choose to double down on their reckless escalation, risking further humiliation and devastating consequences, or they can face the undeniable truth: Russia will not be intimidated. This is no longer a question of minor skirmishes or symbolic attacks. This is about survival in a rapidly shifting global order. For years, NATO has relied on its outdated playbook, escalating conflicts, funneling billions into proxy wars, and attempting to project dominance through sanctions and propaganda. But the events of November 21st have exposed just how fragile that dominance truly is. As Inspector Scott Ritter has noted, this conflict highlights NATO's glaring inability to adapt to modern threats. Their systems are not just outdated, they are fundamentally incapable of responding to the scale and sophistication of Russian advancements. Meanwhile, Russia continues to march forward, armed with innovation, determination, and a clear sense of purpose. The Oresnik missile isn't just a technological marvel, it's a statement of intent. Its deployment signals a new era in global warfare, one where speed, precision, and adaptability are the ultimate currencies of power. And make no mistake, this is just the beginning. Russia's military innovation doesn't stop here. The Oresnik represents the tip of the iceberg, a glimpse into a future where Western dominance is nothing more than a fading memory. The West must now grapple with a harsh reality. Its decades-long monopoly on military innovation has been shattered. For every step NATO takes, Russia seems to take 3. And this isn't just about technology, it's about strategy. While NATO stumbles through bureaucratic red tape and internal divisions, Russia operates with clarity and purpose. Each strike, each deployment of advanced weaponry is a calculated move designed to shift the balance of power. And it's working. The Oresnik has already redefined the rules of engagement. It has rendered traditional defenses obsolete, exposed NATO's vulnerabilities, and forced the West to confront its own inadequacies. But more than that, it has reshaped the psychological battlefield. With every launch, it sends a message to Ukraine, NATO, and the world. Russia is not just a player in this game, it is the leader. And let's consider the broader implications. This is about more than just missiles and strikes. This is about the emergence of a new global order, one where unipolar dominance gives way to multipolar balance. For decades, the West has operated under the assumption that its hegemony was unshakable. But the Oresnik and the strategic brilliance behind it have shown that this assumption is no longer valid. So where does this leave Ukraine and its allies? They must ask themselves a difficult question. Is this path of escalation truly sustainable, or will they finally acknowledge that their current approach is leading them down a road to inevitable defeat? The choice is theirs, but the clock is ticking. As for Russia, its message is clear. Aggression will be met with overwhelming power, and provocation will lead to decisive action. The Oresnik is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of a resurgent Russia, unyielding and uncompromising in its defense of sovereignty and stability. As the world watches, one thing becomes increasingly evident. The era of Western dominance is over. We are witnessing the dawn of a new chapter in the global balance of power, one where innovation, resilience, and determination triumph over complacency and arrogance. Thank you for joining us for this analysis. Stay tuned for more insights as we continue to explore this evolving conflict. And remember, in the words of an old Russian adage, patience and time conquer all. Until next time, this is your trusted source for the truth behind the headlines.